Howdy from Easy YouTube, this is Rabe speaking with another 12 Days of Anime. And for the next day, I think we're on day 7, I think? Day 7 or something like that? Or I don't know. But anyway, for this day, we are going to be talking about Eden's Zero. So I know some of you might be like, oh, is this Fairy Tail? No, it is not Fairy Tail. But if you've been watching some of my early videos or you've been keeping up with the updates on some of the other sources, basically, this is a show, well, a series, a manga series created by the same person who created Fairy Tail. And yeah, that's pretty much one of the reasons why this show looks a bit similar to Fairy Tail. And I know one of you might be thinking, like, some of you might be thinking, like, oh, that Rebecca chick, the chick on the right, looks like Lucy. And that could be the case. Yeah, she kind of does look a bit like Lucy. And then there's another thing that points out to you: the blue cat is happy. That's happy. That is correct. He is happy, but this is a different version. Like basically, I don't think like I know some people might be complaining like, oh, this is lazy, animation since these characters look so much like Fairy Tail. Well, I think what it could be is that I've made a theory on this that it could take place in a parallel universe to Fairy Tail. Like if you've seen the episodes with I think it was what I think they called it Daedalus or something. Like when they went to that other Earth, like there are different versions of them, like a different Natsu, a different Lucy, a different Urza. I think that's what this is. I think that's what this is. I'm just coming up with theories, but despite the character designs and everything, despite the character designs looking a bit similar to Fairy Tail, I still enjoy this series. I still enjoy it. But what is this series about? Well, basically, this series is different from Fairy Tail. Instead of wizards, it's more about like space people, space travelers, similar to Cowboy Bebop, or if you like Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy. When you first read this series, you don't know what it's gonna be until they actually go into space. You're like, oh my god, they're in space, so this is gonna be a space opera series. And the characters of this show are just absolutely they're actually pretty cool. Like Shiki, the main character, who looks a bit like Gray combined with Natsu. He's a pretty cool character. I mean, if you thought Natsu was kind of an idiot, like Shiki's kind of more of an idiot because he's been isolated from society, so he's having a hard time getting used to it. The beginning of this series is different from Fairy Tail. I actually enjoyed the introduction to this series better than I did with Fairy Tail because Fairy Tail focused a lot on introduction, like well, actually, Fairy Tail focused a lot on humor more. It didn't really focus too much on the serious stuff. Whereas Eden Zero, I feel like the first two chapters focused a lot on really heavy moments. I mean, yeah, it has comedy, but it had its heavy moments as well. It kept it at a balance. Like, oh my god, that second chapter though with Rebecca and Happy. Like, I never thought something like that would happen. Like, I never thought something like that would happen in a second chapter. Like in that flashback though, like that flashback for Happy and Rebecca, I feel for their friendship. I really do. Even though this show isn't an anime right now, I felt like I really had to talk about this since this has been a really good manga so far. This has been a really good series. I know it's going to be a while till this manga gets an anime adaptation, but when it does get an anime adaptation, people are going to be very, very anticipated about this, including myself.
And now let's talk about Burn the Witch. Now, this is a one shot, as you can tell. This is not a manga series yet, but it could. It could be a pilot chapter that could eventually become a manga series of its own for Shonen Jump, but as of right now, it's just a one shot. But let's talk about how great this was. Let's talk about it. For those of you who don't know, as you can tell by the page, it says by Tite Kubo. And for those of you who don't know who Tite Kubo is, he is basically the author, the artist of Bleach. Now, like some people miss Bleach despite its ending. I don't read the manga, so I don't really know too much about the ending, but I know people don't really like it. Similar to how they didn't like the ending to Fairy Tail that much. So, but the thing with this, when people heard that he was doing a manga shot, that he was just returning to do this one shot, people were excited despite it just being a one shot thing. Like people went out of their way to read this, to see what it was like. And a lot of people, including myself, enjoyed it. Like, this was something, it was very similar to Bleach. And not only that, but it takes place in the same universe as Bleach because it deals with Soul Reapers. But the thing with this one is that they don't really call each other Soul Reapers that much. I can't really remember what they called each other. I have to reread it again. But what's different about this, though, is it takes place in Europe. Like, it takes place in London, reverse London, if you want to say that. Like, there's basically a soul society in London, and basically they call themselves the Western, like the Western side of the Soul Society or whatever. I think that's how they say it. Whereas the one in Bleach, they're considered the Eastern Soul Society. So yeah, like it feels like a shared universe. It's kind of similar to like the Avengers with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that. You know, the same thing could happen with Eden Zero with Fairy Tail, like I said before. But this one makes a bit more. Like this one's a bit more interesting because we know for sure that this takes place in the same universe as Bleach. Like we got three characters, and two of them are girls and one of them's a guy, and these three characters are just they're very comedic. Like it's this chapter is basically this manga one shot is basically comedic and stuff. I mean, if it was a manga later, like a manga series, they would have darker elements later. But there were times when I kind of took this a bit seriously. Like there were times, just a couple times, not the whole thing, but just a couple times. So if this becomes a manga series, I will read it every week, just like I do with One Piece and Eden Zero. Like we need this. We need something like this. Shonen Jump, please, please make it happen. Plus, this does become a weekly manga series. Imagine the possibilities. Like we could get to know the other two soul societies, the North and the South, and it was just like, please, though. I keep saying it. I keep saying this too much. Like, please make this a manga series. Like, with this manga one shot, it just sets up so much. Like, it's setting up for a series. That's what it felt like to me. Another show that I have to talk about is Rurouni Kenshin. And I know this is a 90s anime for you people who don't really have time for 90s anime, as you say, or like I know you guys say you don't have time for 90s anime, or some of you may say, like, oh, it's old. I want to watch the newer stuff. Well, I have time for 90s anime. I always make the time for anime like this. Like when I watched Rurouni Kenshin on Netflix, I watched it in like 2 weeks. Like I binge watched it like crazy, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I skipped some of the filler, and so if you skip the filler, you'll have a more enjoyable experience. Trust me. But yeah, it's just about this guy named Rurouni Kenshin, well, Homura Kenshin, who's known as the Manslayer, and he's just trying to live a peaceful life with his friends. You know, he's just trying to live a peaceful life. Like he's tired of killing people. Like so, he just wants to not kill anymore. He's made a promise not to kill anymore, and that becomes a struggle for him because there's people out there, main antagonists, who just wants to get him to kill again. Like the main antagonist, one of the main antagonists of this show, like one of the big antagonist is Shishio, who's also a manslayer. He's trying to get Kenshin to be at his full potential because he wants a challenge from him. And just Shishio was just such a great villain, though. He was just so amazing, and some of the supporting characters were really good as well, like Miss Karu, Yahiko, Sanosuke. Like Sanosuke had some really huge development in this, even like with personality and his strength. Like Sanosuke seemed like a strong dude, but then he gets stronger later, and you're just like, wow. The fights are more realistic, like the sword fights. And because of this, I had to talk about Rurouni Kenshin in my 12 days of anime. And I've yet to watch some more 90s anime as well. Like, I got a bunch of 90s anime that are on my list right now. But let me know what you guys think, though. Like, what other series that you plan on watching? What would you think of these other series, like animes, mangas that I've talked about in the past days? Like, what did you guys think of them? Like, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't subscribed, like, I know I don't usually ask for subscribers in my recent videos, but if you liked this video and you enjoyed it and you want more videos, please make sure to subscribe because it really helps out. I'm Rob A, and may the anime force be with you.